So welcome back to Triple F today. This is part 2 of looking at what actually happens in a legislative hearing when people from the community come to talk about proposed bills. Let's keep going. Eva, you ready?
We are. I think what we want to do now is we heard testimony from the OBGYN doctors, right? And then we heard testimony from a gentleman whose partner went through the experience. And then we ended the last part with Lisa Shorba, who talked about. But I think we need to talk a little bit about the bill itself and the legality of what they're trying to do and not do and all of that. So let's listen to the testimony of Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
It's on Zoom. Please proceed and identify yourself.
Yes, thank you, chairs and members of the committee. My name is Rachel Kinsey, and I'm testifying on behalf of Planned Parenthood. PPAA supports SB1, a bill that helps protect abortion providers and allows physician assistants to provide care. SB1 is a good first step towards bolstering protections for providers and patients with its clarification of the abortion statutes. We appreciate that the bill declares that hostile state prosecutions are contrary to the public policy of the state of Hawaii, and we support efforts to limit the issuance and enforcement of subpoenas, summons, and investigations related to reproductive health care. We also strongly support the provisions in SB 896, the bill aimed at implementing these policies, and we encourage the committee to ensure the two bills are harmonious in their drafting. We request that any legislation shielding abortion providers and patients extend protections to gender-affirming healthcare providers as well. This life-saving care is also under attack nationwide, and we must ensure that Hawaii health providers don't become targets just for doing their jobs. In addition to the existing provisions of the bill, we also request that the committee amend the bill to include the statutory protections outlined in SB 890. These clarifications will go a long way in supporting our providers and patients by ensuring that our statutes are as strong as possible. PPAA strongly supports the provision in SB 1 that allows physician assistants to provide abortion care. Numerous studies have found no difference in abortion safety when performed by PAs rather than physicians, and many healthcare and professional organizations have confirmed that qualified licensed providers can safely and effectively provide abortion care. Thank you so much for your opportunity to testify in support of this important legislation. Thank you.
What leaped out, first of all, is a bill about abortion. She made it clear that they want to also protect them from doing gender-affirming treatment.
Well, that's because Planned Parenthood of America, with the Dobbs decision, publicly has acknowledged they're now giving out those transgender blockers to young people.
Well, that's
so it's part of their marketing.
Well, but that's why I want people that are watching to understand that this isn't just about abortion.
Well, the gay guy, Mike Olajuk, can't possibly need an abortion ever.
Okay. The point is, understand that when they do legislation like this, when you've got one of the top organizations like Planned Parenthood saying that we need this codified in Hawaii revised statutes, they're going to do it.
So let's talk about what it is.
Yes, let's talk about what it is.
So there were two major parts to the bill. One part was to allow a lower level trained medical clinic staff person, physician's assistant, to perform the abortion procedure. And right now, it's the physician and the advanced practical practice nurse, the APRNs. So the first part of the bill was to say, let's let an even less trained and educated person do it because we need it, because people that are educated enough to do it don't want to do it.
No, there's not. Yeah, there's not enough doctors to do it. But the second part of the bill,
yes, which was much longer, much more detailed, and worse, was the state of Hawaii taking up a fight with the states on the mainland that have passed restrictive laws by saying, we are not going to let your subpoenas or your judgments or anything else affect people that live in Hawaii, which basically means if a girl gets pregnant in a state that does not allow abortion at the point the girl needs it or wants it, so she comes to Hawaii to get an abortion. And if everything goes perfectly fine, or it doesn't go perfectly fine, She goes back to where she came from, and the state where she came from has that new twist, which says your family members affected by the loss of the baby or the damage to the girl can sue for damages. It's not a criminal thing, which Roe v. Wade dealt with. You can't make it criminal against a doctor. So what they're saying is, if she goes back and her mom, her dad, her husband, her boyfriend, her brother, whoever qualifies in whatever state it is to sue civilly for damages because they've been damaged, they lost a family member in the abortion process, the state of Hawaii won't let them do their case as needed with the witnesses in Hawaii, or take the judgment that they get in their home state against the physician that did the procedure and the APRN or whatever, and enforce it by causing that person to pay the money damage, right? So what Hawaii's doing is what happened, and this was part of my testimony, is what happened between the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which was 1776 to 1787. We had a country, we had 13 states, but we didn't have a constitution. We had the Articles of Confederation, which didn't help the states get along together. And in fact, they didn't get along together, much like Hawaii's not getting along now with those other states. And we had all kinds of problems, which is why the founding fathers made the Constitution, which said full faith and credit of all judgments and court orders from any state have to be accepted in every other state. And it says that states can't regulate interstate commerce. Those were two huge problems under the Articles of Confederacy. So Hawaii is going backwards in time, which makes no sense at all. That's what the bill's about. So go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just thinking that you did such a good job of just explaining what the bills were trying to do. And again, I want to go back to the testimony that we've listened to, and there was far more testimony. You can go check it out on the Capitol website on YouTube, and you can watch all of these. And you will see that a lot of the people testifying were testifying about how wonderful abortion is or how bad abortion is, but not getting into the meat of what the bills said. When I testified, mine was very brief. I basically said that we should be concerned about the safety of women. And I wanted to go on record saying we do care about the safety of women. And the bottom line remains that physicians have more training and expertise.
So it's safer for girls not to let less trained people do the job.
So of course, when I sit down, I realize that people are like, wait, she didn't say she's pro-life, and so there might be people taking issue with my testimony. But the one thing you and I have talked about when we do our dog and pony show is you've got to understand that your testimony is going to mean more to the legislators if they know you've read the bill and if you're addressing the bill itself. Now, I'm not saying not to testify if you have a heart, because the gentleman we talked about that gave the testimony about standing outside of Planned Parenthood, I thought when he said that was a very powerful moment, because it really made, it really personified the experience that when the doctor's in there doing the abortion and they're going, good job, go home. They don't follow the woman out to the car, and they have no idea if when she gets to the car, she collapses and cries for 4 days and then requires 6 years of, counseling, because now it's something that, let's just be honest about that. But let's get a little bit more deeper. Let's see what the Hawaii's AG's office says about the bill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, next up, we have Department of Health providing comments. Okay, next up, we have Deputy Attorney General providing comments not on Zoom, on person.
In person.
Okay.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the Joint Committee. Christopher Leong, Deputy Attorney General. The department offers a few comments on this bill, just recommending language changes to address certain legality concerns. The specific recommended amendments are in our written testimony. You have them. Just briefly, there are 3 discrete ones. One to subsection F to address a potential overbreadth issue. Second, an amendment to subsection G2 to address a potential full faith and credit clause issue regarding this issue of enforcing judgments from other states, and then just a small amendment to subsection G4 just to make sure that that subsection does not conflict with existing laws regarding issuance of out-of-state subpoenas. So that's it. I'll be available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm go ahead, Jim. I can see your brain. Go ahead. Say it, Jim.
No, go ahead.
No, you say it.
No, I got nothing.
I was going to say, did he not just say everything that you just said earlier about the full faith and credit clause? I mean, obviously, if
Yeah,
the AG's
and I wrote my testimony before he testified, so it's not because I learned it from him.
No, but I'm like, when you say it, you're just a crazy man with a third eye. But if the AG's office says it, it's like, oh, tell me more. You just have to laugh, because obviously, if you have the deputy AG's office also asking the question, then it's something that I think they need to consider.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jim's like, I don't even need to say anything more about that. Well, thank you. That was brief. Okay. Let's now talk about,
So let's set it up this way. Sometimes you show up to testify and you get 2 minutes, and there's actually a clock that clicks down from 120 seconds down to 0, and then it beeps and you're done.
As you said earlier, though, it depends what hearing you're at, because some
true.
use a very obnoxious.
Yes. And then other times after the bill is finished and they haven't voted on anything, but they finished hearing testimony, they will, the committee members have the opportunity to ask certain people to come sit back up there for questions. There's no 2-minute limit there.
Right.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, it's good. And so again, as I mentioned at the beginning of part 1, there are several abortion bills. So now we're moving to a bill that wants to enshrine abortion into the Hawaii state constitution. And I was unable to attend the hearing in person. Jim was there, but I have to laugh because the particular language that they want enshrined in the Constitution was so broad that even me, a non-legal person, was like, what does this mean? Because they want to enshrine reproductive freedom into the Constitution. And that could mean anything to anybody.
Well, no, think about it. That could mean nobody could ever again be arrested for doing the conduct that leads to reproduction anywhere in the public sphere. You can do that action because it's freedom.
No,
it's dumb.
Well, and it's hilarious because what turned into, I think what the senators were trying to do was kind of trip Jim up, but it actually ended up being like almost a slam dunk. And so I had to bring that Q&A of them calling Jim back up to
It's
talk.
a different bill.
It's a different bill. Like I said, this is on the bill that would enshrine abortion into the Hawaii state constitution. So let's take a look at this interchange between the senators and Jim Hochberg.
Good morning again, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Jim Hochberg. As I said earlier, I've been practicing law in Hawaii for 39 years, actually. I do a lot of litigating over all those years of First and Second Amendment constitutional issues in federal and state courts. So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it more from what are the unintended consequences of the language as opposed to the substantive issues. And basically, it's got a lot of landmines in it, because even if we don't want to admit it, we all know individuals can't get pregnant. So really the individuals in society that are capable of getting pregnant are the ones that have the abortion issue. And so one of the hidden landmines I see in this is, contrary to the years of abortion legal action in Hawaii, are we saying now that the other half of the pregnancy team that doesn't actually get pregnant now gets reproductive rights and can get involved in the pregnant person's choice on abortion? I mean, that's in there. I mean, it's hidden in there. The other thing is there are, you know what? It's kind of hard to see that too. It's, there are currently limits in Hawaii in the abortion statute. There are age limits without parental consent. There are viability standards, and all of that might get wiped out by this. And then the other thing is, when you have a constitutional amendment that has language in it that says including these things, then that begs the question, and what else? So it's kind of a poorly worded amendment to put in the Constitution, except for people like me who get to work for years litigating what it means. I mean, there are better ways to do it. And so I'm opposed to this from that perspective, and I do thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you. Next we have Cheryl B. in support. I got a question. Senator Gabbard. For Mr. Hochberg.
Sir, you mentioned the age situation. So what's your suggestions for defining the age when these rights arise, since it's not mentioned in the bill?
So I'm not sure I understand the question. It has to do with the age. So like currently, I believe pregnant women, girls that are 14 years old can get abortion services in Hawaii without parental consent, but you can possibly get pregnant earlier than that. And those earlier girls either need parental consent or somebody has to lie about how old they are. This says no law shall be enacted that denies or interferes. We already have laws that restrict in little ways. You know, Hawaii is not the most restrictive abortion state in the country, but there are some restrictions. And this seems to me, as a litigator, is saying they all have to be, they're repealed by implication if this were to pass.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, just to follow up to that, Mr. Hochberg, so you said you litigate Second Amendment cases as well. I mean, the language of...
Senator, I'm really having a hard time hearing.
That's right. You said you litigated Second Amendment cases as well.
Correct.
And the language in well, actually they're the same, and the U.S. Constitution and the state constitution are pretty broad. There's no indication whatsoever that you can't own a gun at age 6. So, but most states restrict it.
The Second Amendment case that I litigated was Livingston versus Ballard, which was resolved 2 months ago.
But this is a constitutional question. Just because the Constitution says you have a right to have a gun, it doesn't mean that you can't be restricted in some way.
But that's not what this bill says. This bill wants to put into the Constitution a restriction on laws that interfere with a right. And since you already have laws that interfere with the right, I'm guessing this is a repeal by implication, but I don't know.
Okay.
That would have to be litigated and determined. That's my point.
Okay, thank you. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I fully understand as a lawyer who also practiced in appellate courts what you're saying. So if this was reworded to be similar in text to that of the Second Amendment, which basically Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So if it's similarly worded to say the right of the people to abortion and contraceptives shall not be infringed, wouldn't that allow for the kind of administrative regulations that we are seeing with the guns, and to allow us to keep the kind of regulations we have in the state of Hawaii?
Well, the age thing still remains in there. And in fact, under the Second Amendment, there are attempts across the country currently to restrict the exercise of the Second Amendment based on age. And some courts are saying the Second Amendment in the U.S. Constitution doesn't have an age requirement. It says shall not be infringed. And so that would probably play out here for parents of girls under 14, or if you eliminated the restriction under 14, then there would be no 14 and older without consent. So you might be opening up to parents of 17-year-olds and younger challenging their child, their daughter, having an abortion without their consent. That's the problem with this. I think what you guys really want to do is say, we want Roe v. Wade in our Constitution. And this isn't Roe v. Wade. This is way beyond Roe v. Wade. So it's just got a lot of constitutional problems in it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim Hochberg, if I had a mic, I would drop it. That was like,
gosh.
They really tried to, we got you with the gun thing. And interesting, because I think that you were having trouble understanding Carl Rhodes because he was talking with the mask on.
I couldn't understand Mike Gabbard either because of the mask.
Yeah, so so he asked that question. Well, what about the age? And you said
something about
age. Yeah,
age.
you didn't get it. But because you did understand the question from Senator San Buenaventura, you were very clear that no, this is and so I think when you walked away, now let's let our listeners and our watchers and our viewers know that the bill is passing out of committee. They're going to make some language changes to it. So it's not like they said, thank you, Mr. Hochberg, for that great testimony. We're now going to kill the bill. I think we have to watch this very closely, because
Absolutely.
this could be the bill that brings all of that stuff into, because what has to happen is, because it's a constitutional question, if it passes, that means it's going to be on the ballot before the voters of Hawaii in 2024.
Correct.
And we need people to understand that if they say yes to that, it's enshrined. Whatever the language is, it's enshrined into our state
So it's
constitution.
very easy to listen to. It's very easy to remember. It's SB1. Okay?
No, SB1 is the other one. This one was SB 1167.
Oh, I'm sorry. SB 1167. That's not
Yes.
quite as easy to remember, unfortunately. But what I was going to say is, when you hear about this bill again, remember, one of the things that Eva and I will do at your church, if you ask us to, for free, is come and teach you how to respond. The one thing we don't want is for you to wait until the day you're going to vote, look on the ballot, read this amendment proposal, and not know in advance your vote.
Well, and this is going to be a time where the Christian community is not going to be able to say, I'm going to ignore this issue. It's going to go away.
Right.
Now, the good news is that a blank vote is a no vote on a
Correct.
constitutional question. So if you leave it blank, that's good. We want it to be no. But we would rather there be a resounding no from
And
the
we don't
people.
want you to say, oh, good, then I just won't worry about it and I'll remember to leave it blank. Because what we really need you to do is be very well educated and talk about it with the people in your sphere of influence, your family, your friends, your coworkers, people you ride the bus with, the people you play sports with, whatever.
And they cannot change the title of the bill. The title of the bill says freedom, reproductive freedom. So I don't know if that's the language that they're going to leave in the question, because they could change the question.
Right.
But we need to follow this. And I think the bottom line is we absolutely do not want the Constitution in the state of Hawaii to enshrine abortion rights in this manner.
Correct.
So we thank you that you've hung in with us on this edition of the earlier part of the show. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to this video. This is a different format for Jim and I to actually show you the testimony and discuss it. If you like this format, please make sure you like the video and make comments so we kind of know where you're at on this, because we want to do more of this if this is what you want us to do. And don't forget to check us out on the website, hawaiifamilyforum.org or hawaiifamilyadvocates.com. And we will see you all next week.
Thanks for hanging for part 2. Aloha.
Mahalo, everybody.